Space is a place of immense beauty and honestly, unforgiving danger. Every mission that launches into the blackness carries with it the hopes of a nation and the courage of its crew. The Soyuz 11 mission was one such endeavor, a monumental step for humanity's presence beyond Earth. Its goal was historic, to dock with Salyut 1, the world's very first space station. This was not just another flight, it was the dawn of a new era. Georgi Dobrovolski, Viktor Patsayev, and Vladislav Volkov were the men chosen for this incredible journey. They were pioneers, ready to live and work in the cosmos, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible for human exploration among the stars. The crew's time aboard Salyut 1 was a triumph. For 23 days they called the orbital outpost their home. They were the first humans to inhabit a space station, a feat that resonated across the globe. Their daily life was a blend of scientific rigor and human wonder. They conducted experiments, studied the Earth from their unique vantage point, and even celebrated a birthday in orbit, Viktor Patsayev's. They broadcasted live to their families and their country, their smiling faces a symbol of success. They showed the world that humans could not just visit space, but could live there, working together in a tiny metal can hurtling through the void. Their work was groundbreaking. Patsayev became the first person to operate a telescope outside of Earth's atmosphere, gazing into the universe with unfiltered clarity. They studied the effects of long-duration spaceflight on the human body, gathering data that would be crucial for all future missions. Every task they completed was a step into the unknown. They were not just astronauts. They were celestial settlers, laying the foundation for future generations of spacefarers. Their mission was a resounding success, a bright chapter in the early days of the space race, filled with promise and the spirit of discovery. As their mission neared its end, the crew was filled with a sense of accomplishment and the quiet joy of returning home. They had done their job, and they had done it well. They were proud of their achievements, and eager to share their experiences with the world. They looked forward to feeling the pull of gravity again, to breathing fresh air, and to embracing their loved ones. The journey back was supposed to be a victory lap, a final routine step to close out their historic Odyssey. They prepared their Soyuz capsule for the return, their hearts full of the pride of a mission completed and the anticipation of a safe landing. The moment came to leave their orbital home. The undocking procedure was flawless. The crew of Soyuz 11 bid a final farewell to the silent Salyut 1 station, a place that had been their world for over 3 weeks. From their capsule's small windows, they watched it grow smaller and smaller, a lonely outpost receding into the vast, dark emptiness. Their mission logs were full of data, their minds full of memories. They were heroes returning from the frontier, bringing back knowledge and a story of triumph. The journey home had begun, a fiery descent through the atmosphere that separated them from the green and blue planet below. Inside the cramped Soyuz descent module, the mood was professional and calm. Georgi Dobrovolski, the commander, expertly guided the craft through its initial maneuvers. Vladislav Volkov, the flight engineer, monitored the systems, his eyes scanning the instruments before him. Viktor Patsayev, the test engineer, sat beside them, his work on the station complete. They were a team, working in perfect sync, just as they had for the past 23 days. The re-entry sequence was a familiar one, practiced countless times in simulators. They were ready. The world below was waiting for their return, unaware of the silent tragedy about to unfold. As the Soyuz spacecraft prepared for its most critical phase, the separation of its modules, everything seemed normal. The orbital module and the service module were jettisoned as planned, leaving only the small descent module to carry the crew through the intense heat of re-entry. This was a violent, dynamic process. Explosive bolts fired to push the unneeded sections away. It was a standard procedure, a necessary step to ensure the crew's capsule was properly oriented for its fiery plunge. For the 3 men inside, this was just another milestone on their checklist, another step closer to feeling the solid ground of Kazakhstan beneath their feet. The capsule began to orient itself, its heat shield facing forward to absorb the friction of the atmosphere. The cosmonauts were strapped tightly into their seats, braced for the G-forces that would press them down. They were professionals, trained for this very moment. They had complete faith in their machine and in their training. Their communication with ground control was clear and confident. They reported that all systems were nominal. They were coming home. It was the final stretch of an incredible journey, the last few minutes of a mission that had already made history. They were poised on the edge of a triumphant return. Suddenly, without any warning, a critical valve failed. It was a tiny component, a pressure equalization valve, designed to open just before landing to allow the cabin pressure to match the outside air. But it opened far too early, at an altitude of 168 kilometers where there is no air, only the vacuum of space. A loud hiss would have filled the cabin, the sound of their breathable atmosphere escaping into the void. In a matter of seconds, the precious air that sustained them was gone. The cabin pressure plummeted to zero. It was a catastrophic failure, a 1 in a million malfunction that occurred at the worst possible moment. The crew was not wearing pressure suits. On previous Soyuz missions, the capsules were so small that there was no room for 3 crew members wearing the bulky life support gear. To make the mission possible, the decision was made to fly without them. It was a calculated risk, one that had been accepted to achieve the historic goal of manning the Salyut station. In that horrific moment, this decision proved fatal. Without the protection of suits, the cosmonauts were exposed directly to the vacuum of space. Their bodies faced a sudden, massive decompression, a situation no human can survive for more than a few moments. Despite the sudden chaos and the terrifying realization of what was happening, the crew remained incredibly brave. Flight recorders later showed that they reacted with astonishing speed and professionalism. They knew exactly what the problem was. Dobrovolski and Volkov immediately began trying to find the source of the leak, their hands moving with purpose in the final seconds of their consciousness. Patsayev, unbuckled from his couch, was likely trying to manually close the faulty valve. They did not panic. They were fighting for their lives, working as a team to solve an impossible problem until the very end. But there was no time. The loss of oxygen was too rapid. Within seconds, they would have lost consciousness, their heroic efforts falling short against the unforgiving laws of physics. The Soyuz capsule continued its journey, now a silent vessel carrying its sleeping crew. The automated systems performed perfectly. The parachutes deployed, the landing rockets fired, and the capsule touched down gently in the vast plains of Kazakhstan, right on target. To the recovery teams racing toward the landing site, it looked like a perfect mission conclusion. They expected to open the hatch and greet 3 returning heroes. The recovery team arrived at the capsule, their hearts full of excitement. They knocked on the side of the hatch, expecting a response from within, but there was only silence. A feeling of dread began to creep in. Following procedure, they opened the hatch and the terrible reality was revealed. The 3 cosmonauts were in their seats, seemingly peaceful, but they were gone. There were no signs of struggle, no visible injuries. They looked as if they were merely asleep. The world's first space station crew had perished in the final moments of their journey, victims of a silent, invisible killer. The tragedy of Soyuz 11 sent a shockwave through the global space community. It was a stark and brutal reminder of the inherent dangers of space exploration. The investigation quickly identified the faulty valve, and the cause of death was confirmed as decompression hypoxia. In the aftermath, the Soviet space program was grounded for 2 years while engineers worked to redesign the Soyuz spacecraft. The most significant change was a return to the mandatory use of pressure suits during launch, docking, and landing. The lives of Georgi Dobrovolski, Viktor Patsayev, and Vladislav Volkov were not lost in vain. Their sacrifice directly led to safety improvements that have protected every subsequent generation of cosmonauts and astronauts. The legacy of the Soyuz 11 crew is one of courage, sacrifice, and progress. They were pioneers who gave their lives in the pursuit of knowledge and exploration. They are remembered not for how they died, but for how they lived and what they achieved. They proved that humans could live and work in space for extended periods. paving the way for all future space stations, including Mir and the International Space Station. Their names are engraved on a plaque left on the moon by the Apollo 15 mission, a tribute from their spacefaring rivals, and a monument stands in their honor at their landing site. Today, when astronauts and cosmonauts strap into their seats, they wear pressure suits. This simple act of safety is a direct result of the lessons learned from Soyuz 11. The silent tragedy that befell these three brave men became a loud, clear call for greater safety in all human spaceflight. Georgi Dobrovolski, Viktor Patsayev, and Vladislav Volkov flew higher than almost anyone before them. They touched the future, and though their journey ended in heartbreak, their spirit continues to guide us as we continue to reach for the stars, forever remembered as the heroes who gave everything for the dream of space.